What's up, everybody? It's Jaron from Berkshire Bike and Board, and this is a video about how to start thinking about your next custom bike. So why are we making this? I got to build a new bike. It's end of summer here at the bike shop in the Berkshires, and we're getting into like the season when I don't have to try and be as fast as possible. My bike doesn't need to be as fast as possible. It's going to be more of an adventure type setup, and so I've kind of categorized this bike into three things. And let me back up and say this. Specialized just came out with the Crux DSW. It's got a universal derailleur hanger on the back. It's one of the first frame sets to offer that on the road and gravel circuit. And so that's kind of the inspiration for this build, is that universal derailleur hanger on a gravel frame. So we're gonna go like this. We're gonna go new bike day. And this is how I would do it if I was building any bike, whether it's a mountain bike, a road bike, a tandem bike. And I'd encourage you guys to do the same. So new bike day. And the frame set is a Crux DSW. And so every bike is going to fit multiple purposes. You know, most of the time, if you build a road bike that's really fast, you're also going to want to do this with it. Or if you build a mountain bike that you're mostly geared towards riding downhill on, well, occasionally you're going to have to pedal uphill. And so every bike does more than one job. And so for this bike in particular, we're going to do like a, I believe this is called a Venn diagram. I was tooling around with this earlier, and this is a good way to start. And so three things this bike needs to do. It needs to, we're gonna say like gravel race or race gravel. Am I gonna actually do any gravel races? Probably not, but I'll probably do the occasional cyclocross race, and I'll try to race my friends on Tuesday night when we do our local group ride. So I just want the bike to be fast. That's a priority. The other thing I want this bike to do is commute on. I currently live about a mile from work, probably not even. And so I would love to ride back and forth on this bike as much as possible from now until the end of December. I make a point every year to not ride after December, and I'll ski for a few months so that biking feels fresh in March or April again. So from now, which is August 29th, I believe, through December 31st, this bike is going to be my transportation at least to and from work. Last but not least, bike packing. Am I going to go bike packing on this bike? Probably not. But if you ever go on bikepacking.com and you look at some of their bikes and articles and the photos, it really inspires you to become a bike packer. And so I always keep that in the back of my mind, especially for bikes like this, because I want to be a bike packer someday. Today is probably not that day. So in order of importance, this bicycle, gravel race or speed, we'll call this speed. That is my number one priority. That's what I'll be spending most of my time on this bike doing. Number two, commuting. I'm going to ride it to and from work every single day. It's not going to be a lot of miles, but it is going to be an important part of my day, because if you ride your bike to work, you want to have a good experience doing it because it sets the tone for your day. And number three, bike packing. It's really just inspirational or aspirational, but I threw it on there because, you know, maybe someday, Junior. What I would do at this point is I would start thinking of like some ideas that each of these categories bring to mind. So like when I think of gravel, race, or speed, I think fast, I think light, I think, you know, big gear range. I think, you know, if I go to commute, I go, you know, I start thinking about like, you know, flexibility, dry, visibility. You know, I want to be able to see and be seen. When I go to bike packing, I think, you know, durability. I think reliability. Another good one for bike packing is fixability. I don't know any other, like, I think these are called adjectives that don't start with itty. So again, commute, like, what do I want out of this bike? Well, for commuting, I want to be able to wear flat shoes and SPD shoes. I have a trick for this because I want to ride to work and I don't want to have to carry a set of shoes with me for my 1 mile bike ride. The other thing that's important about my commute is I want to be able to bring my dog to work. I was thinking about this over the last day or two, and I started thinking about this bike, and I'm like, bring your dog to work. My dog's 40-pound, like, miniature lab, basically, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a long axle for the rear, and so that I can attach a Thule trailer to the back of it, and I can stick my dog in the trailer and ride to work with my dog in the back of the bike, which is friggin' cool, and that's the beauty of working at a bike shop. So commute, bring my dog to work. I want to be able to wear flat shoes or SPD clip-on shoes. I want to stay dry. I want to see and be seen out there. I would like to, this is the other thing. I want to be able to bring I bring a computer, and my life revolves around this notepad right here. I got to be able to bring this thing back and forth. And so that in my lunch, I'm going to write packability here with some details like lunch and notepad. Let's go to a different category. Let's go to gravel, race, and speed. So light, let's see here. When I think light, I think carbon fiber. I think aero. When I think aero, I think position, right? This starts me thinking about like cockpit, right? Do I want flared bars? Let's write this on here, flare versus straight. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a gravel bike. I'm gonna run flared bars, but I'm probably gonna run narrow bars. So like if I could run a 38 or a 40, that's a measurement across the top of the handlebar, and then it flares out. Well, if I'm in the drops, I'm still gonna be pretty narrow. And if I'm in the hoods, I'm gonna be really narrow. So it's like I get the comfortability of the gravel positioning, but if I want to be aero and go fast, I can get up on the hoods and get really narrow. Some other things about gravel race is like, this depends on what you're doing, but we do some pretty rowdy gravel rides around here, and so having the ability to bring a seat up and down is really paramount, especially when going downhill fast. So I'm gonna write dropper post on here with a question mark. Carbon fiber, dropper post, tires are important in this gravel category. They need to be fast. Probably something with a file tread in the middle, slick, right? This is just like the brainstorming process. Nothing is formalized yet. I really like to make sure that any gravel tire that I run has tread on the sides because, again, if I'm riding through the end of the year, a lot of times on these gravel rides that we do, there'll be some snow on the ground and you need some sort of knobby on the side of your tire if you're gonna be able to go around any corners. I've made the mistake of trying to be cool and run slick gravel kings and it just doesn't work. Fast. I'm gonna write sidewall. Definitely tubeless, but that goes without saying. Quick tip, kids, if you're running a 32 millimeter tire or bigger, you should be tubeless. 32 millimeter tire or smaller, you should be tubed. Is that a fact? No, it's my opinion, but it's a good one. Trust it. Let's keep going. Bike packing. Okay, this is the fun one. Again, am I gonna bike pack? Probably not. Is it aspirational? Is it cool? Yes, bike packing inspires us all. So the big question with bike packing is like racks versus bags. I have a few bags kicking around somewhere, so that's probably the route I'll go down. But I love the front style racks that people are running more and more these days. And so like, if I can sneak away with the idea of putting a really slick, like made out of metal rack on the front of this bike, I think I'll go for it. It'll be a nice way to just like toss some things in and ride my mile to work, but it has to be able to be detachable because I'm not gonna go race my buddies on a gravel ride and have a freaking basket hanging off the front of my bike. I'm just not that guy. Let's see, I broke this down into a few things. We did who's the bike for, what's it for, we did desirable traits. Now let's do desirable parts. So I'm gonna rip this thing off and this is gonna be the parts section. And so what I like to do for this is I'm gonna do my Venn diagram again. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm gonna do my categories again. Gravel is my number one priority. Commute is my number two priority, and bike packing I'm not gonna do, but it makes for cool parts and cool gizmos. Bike packing is number three. A nice way to start to organize your parts is to think of the big categories. So frame is a big one, right? Once you figure that out, everything kind of stems from that. Your group set, that's probably next most important. After that, I like to think about wheels and tires. There's like 1,000 pieces of compatibility just in that. It's insane how complicated this gets. Last but not least, frame, group set, wheels and tires. And I like to say touch points. Everyone does this a little bit differently, but this is what works for me. So, parts, again, brainstorm, gravel. Let's see. I want a dropper post. I like the reverb post. They're expensive, that's why I'll put a question mark there. I need to start thinking about a saddle, like how comfy of a saddle do I want? Probably not that comfy, I got bike shorts for that. Let's see, bike packing number three. We're gonna do bags, and I'm gonna do a front rack, and I forgot to talk about this in commute. A big part of the inspiration of this build is I'm gonna do something I've never done before, which is I'm gonna put a dynamo hub on the bike. I should actually do this. This is the fun part of a Venn diagram. We'll put it in there. Yeah, dynamo hub. That bridges the gap between commuting and bike packing. A little bit of specifics about the dynamo hub. I want it to power a front light and a rear light. The front light needs to be for seeing. So like we talk about lights in the bike shop as like to see or be seen. This is to see, that's what I meant to say. In the back, it's just to be seen. So the Dynamo Hub is gonna basically create power from creating a little bit of drag from my momentum to power a front and a rear light, which is gonna be awesome. It's the most exciting part of this bike. Besides the frame set, this Dynamo Hub is what a lot of the build is being centered around. A couple other things to make my commute more comfortable. I am writing fender here, singular, because again, there's no way in hell I'm putting fenders on this bike, but I will build out some sort of back fender off the back seat so that my butt crack stays dry when I'm coming to work. I'm gonna do, let's see, fender, I'm gonna do a bell, I'm gonna do a light, because like, you know, the Radavist, guys. Fender, bell, light, oh, and then the pedals. I'm so psyched on these. So Problem Solvers, a lot of you are probably familiar with that brand, makes a lot of really cool parts to solve problems. In the last video or the last chapter when I was talking about basically like I wanna be able to wear flat pedals and clipless pedals is like, I don't wanna get one of those stupid pedals that's double-sided. It's just like, it's not me. When I wanna go fast, I want my bike to look lean and mean and be about going fast, and having like a piece of plastic hanging off the other side of that pedal permanently, it just ain't me. What is me is Problem Solvers make this thing called like the detachable or something like that, and it's a piece of plastic with an SPD cleat on the bottom. So what I do is I finish my gravel ride, I get home, I lean my bike against the wall. I take a shower, I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna ride my bike to work, I take that pedal, that platform, I clip it into the SPD thing, I put my regular shoes on, and I ride my bike to work, and I don't have to like do it with my shoe on an SPD pedal. I'm super psyched about that. That's one of the cool parts of this build. Let's go to gravel and speed. So dropper post, that's a priority. The other thing is this bike is UDH. So I am gonna run transmission. If SRAM gives me a good enough deal on a red rear derailleur, I'm gonna get one of those, but they're like 750 bucks retail, so probably not gonna get one of those. This is a bike that I'm gonna use for 6 months. It's an aluminum frame. I don't need to go with like the super high test part on every single part of this bike, but you know, I know a few people, let's say, and if I can get away with it, I'm definitely gonna run that red rear derailleur. Beyond that, I'll probably run that red rear derailleur into like some rival hoods. That can power the derailleur as well as the dropper post if I go down that road, and it gives me a pretty good quality braking system for a bike like this. That is the general gist of the bike. I don't have everything sorted out, but again, to go down this like frame, group set, wheels and tires and touch points, the way that I help to organize it, here's what we've got. We've got a Crux DSW frame set, the best color, because thank you, Lucas at Specialized, for getting me the best color. For group set, it's gonna be like, you know, people talk about mullets all the time. So in the back, I'm gonna have most likely a SRAM GX, I don't even know what they're calling these things these days, transmission, rear derailleur. It's like a 1052 cassette, probably around like a 40 or a 44 in the front. We'll run force shifters and brakes, most likely, because that's who I am at the end of the day. I'm actually a Shimano guy, but we'll see how this goes. Wheels and tires, this is the exciting part. I'm gonna run, it's called an SP Dynamo Hub. Now here's where things get complicated again. I had to find a 24-hole Dynamo Hub because I wanna run deep carbon wheels. And all the deep carbon wheels that I could find, leave some comments if you know some other ones, were 24-hole. So, you know, I would have maybe run a reserve wheel or a DT Swiss hub, or potentially, I'm getting lost, let me back up. SP Dynamo Hub 24-hole. The holes on the hub need to match the holes on the rim. That's super important. That's what I'm running in the front. That's gonna power my front and rear light. In the back, I'm going to run a White Industries 24-hole. It's called like XD or XDR, I believe, free hub. Hub in the back, both are gonna be polished silver. Your hubs have to match. Probably do like some silver spokes and some black nipples to match the black rim, but I'm not positive yet. And then they're gonna be laced to, I found this company today, these guys right here, Astral. They make some carbon rims. They're pretty affordable, similar to the build quality of this bike and this particular project. So I'm gonna run them. I'm psyched I found them. Astral Luna is what they're called. I think they're 40 mils in depth. And then touch points. So I haven't narrowed this all the way down yet, but I've been dying to try the Specialized Roman, I believe it's Evo Mirror saddle, so that's probably what I'll run for a saddle. I'll run SPD pedals. I will run most likely Physique bar tape because I like Physique bar tape, or Supercaz, if I can find anything from them that I like. Try to keep it to a few brands. I don't want to have a bike that has like 30 different brands on it. And then wheels, or tires, I'm sorry, I didn't talk about tires, my favorite part. Gravel Kings. They make an SS, which is smooth in the middle and knobby on the side, in a 45. I think I'll run the 700 by 45s, but I'm not positive. But basically, you get the idea. Is like, this is where I start to take things. Now, the next part of this video series, I'm gonna do a bunch of videos on this particular bike, is like compatibility. So none of this really gets us to compatibility. I'm just basically rifling off some parts. It's a rough video. I'm talking about some things that I want the bike to do, some things that come to mind. I'm gonna take another few days to basically dial in some of those parts, stuff like that, really get clarity on what I want. You know, the other thing you have to think about is, like, for me, at least for this bike, I need this bike done in 2 weeks. And so I don't really have the luxury of like being able to do this in a lot of time, because I told this guy I would sell him my bike after the last race on my calendar this year, which is at Josh Billings. So he gets the bike on September 16th. Our gravel rides start on September 18th. So this bike needs to be ready by September 18th, which applies a little bit of pressure. I'm also taking next week off, but pressure for a guy like me is perfect. So this is the first part in the build series for basically how to build a custom bike, how to think about building a custom bike. And I'll be back with another video in just a few days about the final specs of the bike when I press send on all the orders to get all the beautiful parts coming my way. If you like this kind of video, as normal, hit the subscribe button, press the thumbs up button. We appreciate you all. And like I always say, round up for distance, round down for time. Thanks for watching.